Now we're gonna get into potential, or I believe the biggest news that has come out of Week 4, and unfortunately, it isn't good news, and that is the Tua Tagovailoa injury. Now, if you aren't aware, Tua Tagovailoa, um, in Week 3 when he was playing against the Buffalo Bills, towards the end of the second quarter, after throwing, he was hit kind of late. I believe it was Matt Milano, but he was hit a bit late. He stumbled back. His head kind of whipped back and hit the turf. And he got up. He looked okay, but then he stumbled a bit as he was walking to the huddle. And watching that without, um, like, I guess, like diagnosing anything myself, it just looked as if he hit his head. It was potentially a concussion. That he potentially would have been pulled. He should have been pulled out of the game, but he came into the game later, and they were able to come away with the win. Now, seeing that kind of, let's say Tua was okay during that time. Although I may not agree with it, if he says he wants to go in, even then I don't think you should put him in. But he went in and they were able to win. But then you have a game on Thursday, 4 days later, and this time against the Cincinnati Bengals. He's in the pocket, he drops back for a throw, and he is sacked. But as he is sacked, he's kind of whipped backwards, and his head slams into the turf. And because of that, he's coming out with his fingers kind of locked in place like this. And it was, it's just devastating to see uh, negligence from the Miami Dolphins organization to have their young quarterback being thrown in to a game 4 days after he got his head hit uh, on Sunday, that they attributed to him stumbling as ankle and back injuries, which it's just, you have to protect. There are rules in place that protects the quarterback during the games. But if the organization is just negligent and they decide to throw in their quarterback with a potential concussion 4 days later into a game, and during that game he hits his head and comes out with a concussion, it's just frustrating to see as a fan. You don't want to see uh, any player get hurt like this. Even if it's part of a rival, a team, no one is hoping for, not even just exclusively for the NFL, just anybody get hurt. No one is looking for people to get hurt. And for you to put your quarterback in a situation that is potentially career ending for them, that is something that I think needs to be taken into account. And I think as fans, we need to, consider and say, like, we can't look at players sitting out after something like that and be like, oh, that's what do you like? You need to play, you need to win, because yes, although athletes, it's their job to play the sport that they are given. If you have a potential concussion, you should not play, even if it's not like a confirmed concussion. If you have a head trauma like that, you should not be playing 4 days after you get that. So there are a couple updates that have come from this injury. Obviously, after the game, he was cleared for him to fly back with the team to Miami. So hopefully, he is fine. Hopefully, he'll have a swift recovery, and my condolences go out to him and his family. and just for him to just come back healthy, better, stronger than before. But news has come out that the doctor that initially, I believe it is the doctor that initially um, diagnosed him for, I believe, the back and the ankle injuries, not for that diagnosis specifically, but because of his actions during investigation afterwards. He was fired from his position, and it was a neuroscientist. And so it's hard to say. The NFL is not saying that the back injury and the ankle injury diagnosis is the reason why they fired this man. But there is a potential correlation to that, or it's just that they don't want someone like that at the position in the future. Whatever the case may be, I do think that it was a right decision, whether for that diagnosis or not, for someone to see that and to say that they're cleared to go and play for 4 games afterward. I think it is something that the NFL should be protecting, and the biggest thing is the concussion protocol itself, that needs to be changed. And news has come out that they have changed it so that I believe gross motor function, I believe is what it's called, that is now in the concussion protocol as well. So here we go. So Tagovailoa must proceed through a 5-step process before returning to the field, and this is what it looks like, paraphrasing from the return to play portion of the protocol. So there are 5 total phases, and the first one is rest, then limiting or avoiding physical cognitive activity if they aggravate symptoms, introduction of limited stretching and balancing work, and moving to light aerobic exercise. Phase 2 is gradual progress toward cardiovascular exercise, dynamic stretching, and more balanced work. Neurocognitive and balance testing can be administered if the results are interpreted as back to baseline, pre-concussion levels, and phase 2 is satisfied. Phase 3 is increased cardio exercise to mimic sport-specific activity along with supervised strength training. The player can practice with the team during sport-specific exercise for 30 minutes or less. And phase 4, the player can advance to non-contact football activities such as throwing, catching, and running. Another round of neurocognitive and balance testing is administered to confirm results remain at baseline. And then phase 5, a club physician must clear the player for full football activity, including contact. Then an independent neurological consultant, or INC, assigned to the team by joint agreement between the NFL and the NFLPA, must concur with the team physician that the concussion has resolved. At that point, the player is cleared to play in his team's next game. So the NFL and the NFLPA were the ones who fired that, the independent neurological consultant, or the INC. And so it's it's just hard to see as a fan, a young player especially, have a concussion like this that could have been prevented easily by just having him not play that game. And I just think it's just heartbreaking to see that after this kind of situation or circumstance has occurred, that is when we make these kind of changes, that no one has taken the initiative to look at these things ahead of time and say, hey, this is something that we potentially could have problems with in the future. This is something we should be looking out for. This is something we should be worried about. And just no one questioned that Tua was coming into play 4 days after we saw him whip his head back into the ground. I think that does constitute some changes in the future, and it looks like the NFL has made some initiative to do so. So hopefully we will see Tua come back healthy, and I think until then it's going to be hard for me as a fan to say that they're going to be like true championship contenders. Um, but I guess we'll get to see throughout, until Tua's return, how this team will function with Bridgewater at the helm. But once again, I do hope that Tua gets a swift return to play